In the small town of Gravesville, lost in the forests of Michigan, there were rumors of an ancient vampire who lived in an abandoned mansion on the edge of town. It was said that his name was Jonathan Hart, and that he was cursed for his past atrocities. One cold fall evening, a group of teenagers decided to put the vampire legend to the test. Among them were Emily, Thomas, Lucy, and Michael. They gathered flashlights, snacks, and, of course, their courage to head to the mansion. "It's just an old house," Emily laughed, though her voice shook with fear. "There's no such thing as vampires." "Yes, but if there is, we need to be careful," Thomas replied, his face pale in the light of the flashlight. As they approached the mansion, their hearts beat faster. The building looked abandoned, with a drooping roof and cracked windows. The wind howled as if warning them. "We can't give up," Lucy said, trying to encourage the others. "Let's go inside." After gathering their courage, they entered the house. It was dark inside, and only their flashlights were breaking it up, creating frightening shadows on the walls. Each step sounded like thunder, echoing in the empty rooms. In one of the rooms they found ancient books and pictures of Jonathan Hart, his eyes burning with an eerie light and his smile seeming sinister. Suddenly Michael noticed that one of the books was open to a page with a spell on it. "It's a spell about immortality," he said, his voice trembling. "They say he was seeking eternal life." At that moment, they heard a sound, the creaking of floorboards. Everyone froze and tension hung in the air. Suddenly, there was a thud in the hallway. "What was that?" Emily whispered, her eyes widening with fear. A tall figure with a pale face and long black hair stepped out of the shadows. It was Jonathan Hart. His eyes glittered like a predator's. "Why did you come here?" "We wanted to know the truth about you," Lucy answered bravely, though her insides clenched with terror. The vampire grinned. "You're not ready for the truth." With those words he lunged at them. The teenagers panicked and rushed for the exit, but the door slammed shut, as if on cue. Jonathan began to slowly approach them, his teeth gleaming in the flashlight light. Lucy, without thinking, grabbed an old poker she found in the corner. She lunged forward, hoping to stop him. "Get away from us, you monster!" she shouted, striking the vampire. To her surprise, the blow knocked Jonathan to the floor, but he rose quickly. His eyes burned with anger and he lunged at Lucy. At that moment, Thomas, who was always the bravest, threw a flashlight at him. The bright light blinded the vampire. Seizing the moment, the teens rushed toward the door. As they ran, Emily shouted, "We have to find a way to stop him." They ran outside, and as the sun began to rise, Jonathan stopped. His body began to disintegrate like smoke, and he disappeared into thin air, leaving only the cold wind and silence. The teenagers, still shaking with fear, walked back into town. They knew that the legend of the vampire still lived in Gravesville, and that maybe Jonathan Hart hadn't been destroyed for good. "We have to tell the others," Michael said, his voice shaking. "But who will believe it?" At that moment the shadows began to thicken again, and a low, sinister laugh sounded in the distance. "Who knows? Maybe the vampire is still waiting to come back."